On your knees.
All right, Lynn. Put the gun down. Everything's all right.
Knees! Now!
All right.
Now!
Yes, yes, yes.
We are talking about 24 Hours to Live, starring Ethan Hawke. This one directed by Brian Smers, I want to say. And I've got to say, this was a pleasant surprise, this film. It's a kind of a straight-to VOD action movie with a kind of light sci-fi twist. But I've got to say, I actually kind of liked it. I mean, Ethan Hawke's not the kind of sort of actor who I necessarily think is an action star. But I kind of quite liked him in this role. So what's the film about? Now Ethan Hawke plays this character who was at one point in his life a kind of real kick-ass, special forces type, and he is really kind of trying to get his life back together after the death of his wife and child, and he's just basically taken his time off. He wants to kind of quit, and he's been in this kind of like private military organisation prior to that, and he ultimately gets kind of recruited back into this kind of this private military contractor with a promise of a big payday, and on a mission basically he has to try and assassinate someone, and this someone is protected by this kind of like this Chinese Interpol agent. It's actually a Chinese-US co-production, this, and he ultimately is killed, but he is brought back to life through a kind of experimental procedure that kind of brings literally someone back from death ultimately. Now, he only has 24 hours to live, hence the title 24 Hours to Live. He has like a countdown. He can only come back for 24 hours and ultimately decides he is going to kind of like buck the trend, fight against the these kind of military contractors who basically he feels are a little bit unjust and maybe has a bit more, evil shenanigans up their sleeve, and try and actually defend this kind of this Interpol agent and her kind of witness in regards to uncovering the truth without kind of giving enough, trying to be vague here. So I've got to say, I thought this was quite a well-made action film. I thought Ethan Hawke makes a kind of a believable, kind of grizzled guy. I mean, you never really see him as an action hero, like I've said, but nonetheless, I thought he kind of solved the part quite well. And you do believe, I think he's a good actor, so you do really buy into him as this guy who really has this deep depression and kind of this sorrow over the loss of his family. And I think he plays that very, very well, and obviously has this kind of death wish ultimately, because he just doesn't care anymore. And he's got a bit of a kind of a good relationship going with his father-in-law, played by Hawke, who is only really in a couple of scenes. I really like the kind of the interaction with this Chinese Interpol agent and Ethan Hawke's character. I thought they had a great little kind of back and forth, and things will happen there. I thought was quite good. The action is very well shot, I've got to say, for a kind of a a lower budget movie. I feel it looked great. I thought all the stunts looked great. The explosions, the car chases, all looked pretty darn impactful, and I kind of enjoyed the heck out of it, I have to say. Do I have some criticisms? It gets a little bit OTT, I've got to say. Ethan Hawke's character seems to have gained superpowers with this kind of this procedure, and in regards to the procedure, he doesn't really, we don't really know much about it, and there's not a lot of explanation about how this has actually happened, and I don't really see the point of having this countdown to the second that he's going to die. Why have that if you're going to be on there? It seems a little bizarre to me. Rather, it just had to have a visual thing, I think, but it just seemed a little bit silly, I've got to say. You'll find there's a couple of other familiar faces as well, particularly if you are a Game of Thrones fan. You'll see a very familiar face as one of the kind of the bad guys. I thought the action was great though. It's a fun movie with a neat kind of twist, and has a kind of light science fiction elements with this kind of like regeneration thing. I really enjoyed the ending of this as well. I thought it was very well, nice little kind of stinger at the end. I've got to say, I kind of enjoyed that. I loved Ethan Hawke. I love the kind of the Chinese actress who played this kind of this Interpol agent. I thought she was very good. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's a bit silly, but if you like a kind of like little bit of a silly action with kind of a sci-fi twist, then definitely check it out. I don't think you'll be disappointed. I'll give this movie a solid 7 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.